This is Frontpage with Njideka Maduka, bringing clarity to the headlines, one page at a time.
Absolutely, the front page right here. This is your weekly dose of information and news analysis. This is where we look at our national dailies and pick out the biggest news and make proper sense of them. Right? If you try to be in music, they will tell you the ones topping the chart. Yes, and so the news making our front pages, rating bitterly across our front pages, the banner headlines. And so today is not going to be an exception because we have them loaded. That's right. So welcome. The name is Njideka Maduka. Hoping you woke up energized and that we're about to serve you the hottest news so that you can go out there loaded with adequate information to just get going. And so we have, as usual, the papers before us. We have the Guardian, we have the Punch, and of course the Sun newspapers.
This is Frontpage with Njideka Maduka, bringing clarity to the headlines, one page at a time.
Now let's start with the Guardian. Some political matters and economic matters as well. On the front page of the Guardian, battle for Buhari's 12.7 million ballots. Tinubu pallies a CPC group says revenue target met amid data gaps. Battle for Buhari's 12.7 million ballots. Tinubu pallies a CPC group says revenue target met amid data gaps. Well, the lead says with less than 15 months to the 2027 presidential period, President Bola Tinubu yesterday renewed interest in appropriating the legendary 12.7 million ballots usually credited to the late President Muhammadu Buhari when he met with a faction of the defunct Congress for Progressive Change (CPC), founded by the immediate past Nigerian leader. President Bola Tinubu yesterday said the federal government would no longer resort to borrowing to meet its financial obligations as it now meets its revenue targets. Right, so there are two things being said in this report. Number one is that President Bola Tinubu is targeting late President Muhammadu Buhari's political base. And number two is that President Tinubu is saying that there will be no more borrowing because our revenue has increased. Now, these two things are coming on the front burner because members of the defunct Congress for Progressive Change, so the CPC, which late President Muhammadu Buhari was a founding member before they collapsed into the APC, had paid President Tinubu a visit on Tuesday. And so the Guardian is insinuating that visit has a lot to do with President Tinubu trying to appropriate President Buhari's 12.7 million votes. I mean, if you're quite familiar with the political terrain, the late president was known to have always garnered about 12.7 million votes before the CPC bloc merged with the AC bloc and ABGA bloc and other blocs that formed and made up the APC in 2013. And of course, this is coming based on the fact that some members of this bloc who are disgruntled have resorted to working against President Tinubu in 2027. I mean, if you have been monitoring the news, you should be able to know where we're going with this one. And so if you recall, there was a time Tanko Amakura who is the former governor of Nasarawa State, who was, by the way, part of yesterday's delegation. I mean, he was the one that led yesterday's delegation. Reportedly said the CPC bloc of the APC had endorsed President Tinubu for 2027 and would not defect to another party. But former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, who is also of the CPC bloc, at that time came out to dismiss that statement by Amakura, saying that Amakura should not speak for the CPC bloc and that he was on his own, that nobody had endorsed the President Bola Tinubu. And if you remember, the former AGF was also present at the launch of the ADC coalition in July. I mean, it was even during that period he tendered his resignation from the All Progressives Congress, showing you that the CPC bloc is factionalized. I remember that particular bloc also has Erifai, the former governor of Kaduna State. Right, so the president, having met with another faction of the bloc on Tuesday, the question will be, which of the CPC blocs carries more political weight? Is it the one that met with President Tinubu, or the one that has joined the ADC coalition? If indeed Tinubu's meeting was to seek the support of the CPC bloc in order to curry late President Buhari's 12 million votes, can the Amakura faction do that? Or will the Malami RFI faction neutralize that vote? Already that vote has been neutralized, if you remember, given that Tinubu, instead of scoring over 12 million votes in 2023, garnered just 8.7 million votes, meaning that he lost about 3 or 4 million of Buhari's votes, the votes that usually went to Buhari. And so does the Amakura faction have the mobilization effort to get the 3 million or 4 million votes back? In terms of geopolitical zones, in 2023, Tinubu won in the northwest, he won in the north central, he won in the southwest, Atiku won in the northeast, Obi won in the south, and of course the southeast. And so the question will be, which of these candidates took the remaining of Buhari's 3 or 4 million votes? Of course, the answer, most likely Atiku and Obi. So is the Amakura faction ready to return the votes to Tinubu? Or will the Malami RFI faction, which is supporting Atiku, secure it, or which is presumably, let's just say presumably supporting Atiku, secure it for Atiku or whoever that will merge the ADC candidates? I think early time will tell, but the game is rife. The polity is heating up, and we'll see who takes the upper hand come 2027. Now, moving away from that particular outing, other things were said during their outing in terms of the economy on Tuesday, because President Tinubu said, we will no longer borrow because we have met our revenue targets. You know, this is enough to make anybody choke, because I can't remember the last time Nigeria did not borrow. Okay, so the question is, what is Nigeria's revenue target for the 2025 fiscal year? What is our revenue target? Because if you check our revenue target, is about 41 trillion naira. But Guardian is reporting that we have only met tax revenue target over 14 trillion naira. And that is just tax revenue. We are not talking about oil revenue, right? Oil revenue, according to some reports that we have been able to meet, is 5 trillion naira. And we targeted 15 trillion naira oil revenue for 2025. Now, if you add the oil revenue, which we have been able to meet up with in 2025, which is 4 trillion, with a 14 trillion tax revenue, it's still short of our target of 41 trillion naira. revenue target of 41 trillion naira. Right. Meanwhile, Guardian is also concerned that there is no budget implementation report. Budget implementation report should be able to ordinarily put the real figure as to what we have earned so far in order to measure up with what we targeted for the year. And so if there had not been any report, they said the last time that report was given was sometime last year. All right. Any other thing we're hearing about revenue target is just coming from, when I say unofficial quarters, just like the president said his own on Tuesday. And to buttress this point, I saw another report where the acting chairman of the Federal Character Commission, in the person of Kayode Oladele, saying that we earned 21 trillion naira as tax revenue in the first half of this year. And so what this means is that we can't hold on to a common document that reliably informs us what we have earned so far for this year and measure up with what we targeted. So look and know whether we're actually heading towards achieving the target and whether indeed we are not going to borrow for the 2025 fiscal year. However, if you are to go by the FCC chairman's figure, which is 21 trillion naira tax revenue, and add it to the 5 trillion naira oil revenue, we are still short of the 41 trillion naira revenue target. Right? So if we are short of the target, why is the president saying that we are no longer going to borrow? And the whole budget is about 55 trillion naira. Okay. And so if the whole budget is 55 trillion naira and we're still short of a revenue target, I mean, you can see the deficit staring us in the face. And remember, our whole budget for the year is about 55 trillion naira. And so if the whole budget is 55 trillion naira and we are still short of our revenue target, I don't know the magic that would happen that wouldn't cause us to borrow, right? I don't know. But leaving that story, we're moving on with the Punch. What do we have on the Punch? Staring us to the face of the front page of the Punch. This one says, Convention, Wike's camp demands ignite a fresh PDP feud. Wike's camp demands ignite fresh PDP feud. Well, governors elected on the platform of the People's Democratic Party alongside the party's national chairman, Damagum, and other leaders, have affirmed that the National Elective Convention scheduled for November 15 and 16 in Ibadan, Oyo State, will be held despite the conditions set by the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike's camp. And speaking on behalf of the governors in Abuja on Tuesday at the inauguration of the 119-member National Convention Planning Committee, chaired by Adamawa State Governor Ahmadu Fintiri, the chairman of the PDP Governors Forum, and Bauchi State Governor Bala Muhammad declared that they are not cowards. They spoke loud and clear on Tuesday. Earlier on Monday, Wike's camp held a meeting making fresh demands from the PDP national body. Some of those demands include that the PDP should conduct fresh congresses in Ebonyi and Anambra State. They should conduct a fresh zonal congress in the southeast. They should also acknowledge the outcome of the South Zonal Congress, which held in Calabar Cross River State, which, according to them, has been recognized by the court. They also asked the PDP to conduct local government congress in Ekiti State, in line with court order. But the PDP called their bluff yesterday, and from all indications, there's nothing that shows that the PDP is going to yield to his request. The last time it appeared that PDP yielded to Wike's request was because INEC, which is the electoral body, refused to recognize some documents coming from the PDP because some relevant authorities that were supposed to append their signatures to those documents did not append their signature. I'm talking about people like Samuel Anyanwu. I remember that was the time Samuel Anyanwu and Ude Okoye were slugging it out to claim the national secretary position of the party. And so at that period, any document given to INEC in relation to PDP was not recognized by INEC, so much so that their participation in elections was being threatened. And the chairman, that's Umar Damagum, who was in active capacity then, resorted to, rally around stakeholders to ensure that at the end of the day, Anyanwu, who was and is still Wike camp, was recognized as the national secretary. And so that was how PDP was able to participate even in recent by-elections across the 12 states of the Federation. And so if it appeared that PDP recognized the candidate, the preferred candidate of Wike, it was because they were boxed into the corner, not necessarily because they wanted to meet the demands of Wike. They were looking at the future. This used to be like the biggest political party in the country, and not participating in a major election is going to be like a slap, okay? But the question is, now that this camp is making fresh demands before they can give support to the convention coming up November 15 and 16, Anyanwu, who was at that meeting with Wike on Monday, will he resort to not appending his signature to any future documents, just so that they can score some political point? Only time will tell, because you really can't tell the extent some of these politicians can go. But as for Wike, I guess PDP will have to tell themselves the truth on whether it's not time to, to be more fair with him. The firm disciplinary measure his outbursts and his conduct deserve. So we'll see how this convention goes. But leaving the Punch, we have the Sun, which is the last one before us. Just a quick mention on this one. Out-of-school children will reduce by 2030, UBEC. Out-of-school children will reduce by 2030, UBEC. That's the Universal Basic Education Commission. And of course, this promise was made by the Executive Secretary of UBEC, who is Aisha Garba. Well, promise is one thing, fulfilling the promise is another thing. First of all, you have to identify what is causing children to be out of school. If there are 20 million of them, depending on who is giving us the figure. We know poverty, we know insecurity, we know some cultural norms can actually stop children from going to school. So you have to fix poverty, you have to fix insecurity, you have to correct some cultural norms. So what is government doing in that regard? Because it's going to be all promise and fail if we do not put up measures to limit those things that cause children to be out of school. Right? Nigeria is already paying the price, and we can't afford to continue paying that price. And so it's a wrap for us here on the front page. Hoping you go out there and be the best version of yourself. Let's know what you think about any of the headlines. Drop your comments in the comment section. Follow me on my social media handles. Visit linktree.ee/Njideka Maduka. Linktree.ee/Njideka Maduka. Just click on any of the tabs and you are onto any of the social media platforms. Let's interact and make proper sense of the headlines, bringing clarity to them one page at a time. Do go out there and have a fantastic Wednesday. I will see you again.